And your brain is this incredible supercomputer, and your self-talk is the program it will run. So if you tell yourself, I'm not good enough, or you tell yourself, I'm not good at remembering names, you will not remember the name of the next person you meet because you program your supercomputer not to.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Thrive State Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. V, triple board certified MD and performance and longevity expert. And on today's podcast, we're going to talk about how to take your brain to the next level, how to be limitless. You probably have seen my guest all over. He's a world-renowned brain coach, Jim Kwik. Now, before we get into the podcast, let me just welcome in all the newcomers, all the people who've just found Thrive State. Congratulations. This is the place where thought leaders, world experts come in to talk about the tools, the tactics, the methods, the mindsets to bring us optimal health, longevity, peak performance, happiness, relationships, life. Yes, it even spills over into business. And if you're getting value from the podcast, do us a favor by helping the show grow. You can do it by engaging with the comments below, subscribing to the channel, and sharing this episode with your friends and family members. And if you're returning to the podcast, thank you so much for your loyalty, for your listenership. Your contributions and your engagement has really allowed the show to grow. So a deep, heartfelt thank you to you. Now, let me give you a gift for those of you who are just discovering our work, just discovering Thrive State, and you want to get into Thrive State yourself and just want some free tools. We have bundled everything up in the Thrive State Starter Pack. You can go to thrivestatestarter.com, where I'll give you 3 breathwork exercises to tap into states of calm, energy, productivity, joy at the snap of a finger. I'm also going to share with you chapters of my book, lecture notes from the global keynote I have delivered all around the world, as well as the Thrive State book resource guide. You get that all delivered to your inbox by going to thrivestatestarter.com. Now, some of you have emailed me and asked if I was on Vanderpump Rules, and the answer is yes. I was actually able to do a holotropic or a transformational breathwork session with them. That's actually another way to bring our mind into limitless states. And if you want to learn more about that, we actually have multiple courses online. And as a listener, you can access those courses at 50% off by using the code ThriveState50. Go to mythrivestate.com. There you can find the Thrive State Activator, which actually teaches you how to activate yourself into different energetic states of calm, of joy, of gratitude, of productivity, of getting into the zone. We also have the Thrive State Accelerator, where it's a 10-week course where we actually drive in the habits of optimal health, longevity, and peak performance. Again, as a listener, you can go to mythrivestate.com to access any of the courses or access the bundle. Get it all for 50% off by using the code ThriveState50. Now, this episode of the Thrive State Podcast is actually an excerpt of an interview I did in the Thrive State Summit, where I interviewed 50 of the world's thought leaders in mental and emotional wellness. Jim Kwik is known as the world's brain coach. He's got a huge following, and his insights are so easy to apply to upgrade your brain. So now, if you want to access the summit online, you could actually get it as a part of a bundle where we throw in the summit, we throw in the activator and accelerator by going to mythrivestate.com/pro, and you could access all 50 interviews, including this one, as well as get tons of free bonuses. Again, you can use the code ThriveState50 for 50% off everything we have in our library. So, ladies and gentlemen, get ready to up-level your brain, learn the tools and tactics to allow our cognition, our mental capacity, our emotional capacity to go up to the next level by listening to this beautiful conversation with myself and Jim Kwik. Welcome back to another session of the Thrive State Summit. With me today is friend, mentor, and brother, Jim Kwik. He was once known as the boy with the broken brain. A childhood head injury at the age of 5 actually left him struggling in school. And for a while, he believed that he was never going to be as good as the other kids when it came to learning. But he loved superheroes as a kid, and comic books saved him when conventional education couldn't. Comic books taught Jim how to read, and they also kept his dreams alive that one day he too will find his inner superpower. Jim discovered that no matter what the circumstances, we can rebuild our brains. And after working on him himself, he realized his brain was not broken. It just needed a better owner's manual. This shattered Jim's own limiting beliefs, and over time, it became his passion to help others do the same. He's helped countless celebrities and organizations and helped millions of people around the world through his global platform, giving him the moniker world's #1 brain coach. Jim, welcome to the summit.
So good to be here, Dr. Vuu. Thank you for doing this, and thank you everyone who's participating and watching.
Jim, your first book was very transformational in my life. Limitless, upgrade your brain, learn anything faster, and unlock your exceptional life. Can you elaborate on this concept of limitless and then how it might relate to our mental health and well-being?
Yeah, as you mentioned, growing up, I had a traumatic brain injury, and other people, face different adversity. And I really do believe adversity can be an advantage, that with challenge comes change, that when we struggle through some things, we get strength. And, there's a quote in my book, Limitless, that says, life is the letter C between the letters B and the letter D. Life is C between B and D, where B stands for birth, D stands for death, life C, choice. That our life is the sum total of the choices we've made up to this point, right? And where are we going to spend our time? Who are we going to spend our time with? What are we going to feed our body? What are we going to feed our mind? What are we going to do as a career? What are we going to study and focus on? And I do believe, and I honor everybody who's participating, because you're one of the few who do. You're always learning, and you take agency, and that's really what Limitless is all about. It's about reminding people, helping them to remember how truly limitless they are, and that our mind really is our greatest wealth. Everyone listening to this, it's not like it was hundreds of years ago where we're compensated for our brute strength. Today, it's our brain strength. It's not necessarily our muscle power, but it's our mind power. And as you mentioned, our minds, they don't come with an owner's manual, not always user friendly, but the concept of limitless was, built out of just my struggles. I felt like, that I was not enough. I was a poor learner because of my traumatic brain injury. I couldn't process information as well as everybody else. I had all this self-doubt. I was overloaded. I was forgetful. I couldn't focus. Teachers would repeat themselves over and over again. I would pretend to understand, but I didn't really understand any of it. It took me 3 years longer to learn how to read, and that was really frustrating, especially at that age of 5, 6, 7, 8. I remember when I was 9 years old, I was slowing down a class and was being teased pretty harshly for it. And a teacher came to my defense, in a way she saved me, but, in the short term. But all I remember, she pointed to me and said, leave that kid alone. That's the boy with the broken brain, and that label became my limit. And, as you alluded to, over the years, I learned ways to be able to kind of upgrade my brain to a place where it was more normal, and in some places, some people would say above normal. And I realized that regardless of the person who's listening, regardless of your age, your background, your career, your education level, your financial situation, your gender, your history, IQ, we all could go beyond our perceived limits, and just be the version of ourselves that we always wanted. I believe there's a version of ourselves that's patiently waiting, and the goal is we show up every single day and we learn, like you're doing right now. You're learning, and because I believe change is a constant, but growth is a choice. That these difficult times, they could distract you. These difficult times, they could diminish you, or these difficult times, they can develop you. We always decide. And the three things that we could always decide, it's based around the limitless model that we have in our new book. And it's we could always control our mindset, we could always control our motivation, and we could always control the methods we decide to use. So whether it's in relationships, we have a certain mindset around relationships and attitudes, assumptions about love and closeness and romance. There's also motivation, or, around purpose and drive, around something that gives it meaning and passion. And there's also methods to use. So whether it's finances, there's mindsets around money. Some people believe money is the root of all evil and money doesn't grow on trees, and they wonder why, they feel contained or stuck in that area, or they're not motivated to get out of that box that they've built for themselves, or they're using poor methods of investing or saving or spending, right? And same thing when it comes to our mental health. There's a mindset. I believe genius leaves clues, that there's a set of assumptions and attitudes around people who have more peace in their life, There's certain motivations that where we prioritize self-care because self-care is not selfish. There's certain methods, that you're very aware of, that you've pioneered, and you and I have spoken on stages, multiple times, that you share with people, methods for living longer, living with greater levels of vitality and less disease. And just in my wheelhouse of learning, there's a mindset around intelligence. There's a mindset, self-belief around, there's beliefs we have about how smart we are. There's motivations around learning, doing the deep work and the study and constantly improving ourselves. There's methods, methods we teach, like speed reading or memory enhancement, focus, concentration, all the kind of tools that would be help us to have more control and influence over where we're going in life. And so we're not so much at the effect of our environment, this post-pandemic world where there's a lot of potential chaos, uncertainty, and change. And my message for everyone when it comes to limitless is that we could redraw the borders and boundaries of really what's possible. And I think everyone at some level believes it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be, engaging, in a program or a summit like you're providing. And so I think people, what they're looking for are just those insights, those simple instructions that they can implement, to be able to change their beliefs around themselves or their health or whatever's important to them, give them a little bit of kick so they're consistent in their life and they're not procrastinating, or upgrading the certain methods that they're using, whether it's in learning or in every area of life, just to be that superhero version of themselves. And you mentioned comic books, something about the illustrations really brought those stories to life, and helped me to be able to read. But it wasn't just helping me read and become literate. It gave me hope, that there are people out there that want to go out there and help and really give people hope, along the way. And I think we all could be a superhero to somebody else.
Beautiful. Just this year, I had the privilege of launching the second edition of my book. I was able to take, some observations from the pandemic and let people know that still it is their choice that they can use to create the energetic foundation to activate the biology of longevity and human performance. I drew on new tools. You are launching the second edition of your book, the expanded edition of Limitless. What was the motivation behind that, and what could some of the people expect from the second edition that's new?
Yeah, it was interesting when we decided to revise it and expand it. It was because the world has changed so much.
Yeah.
When I first penned the first edition of Limitless, my primary objective was to empower the reader, right? Which I hope we did, and it did, went out far and wide, and it's translated and available in dozens of different countries. And I sought to provide a roadmap to a new limitless you, where your abilities are not bound by perceived constraints, where lifelong learning becomes not only possible, but also enjoyable. And over the years, the past few years, I received an outpouring of heartwarming stories and case studies from readers that worldwide who found a new sense of possibility through the Limitless book and the Limitless model. And these are individuals who wrote stories. And I wanted to share those stories in the new book to ignite, that people who reignited their motivation, who reshaped their methods, and the changes they experienced, both personal and professional, were inspiring and indeed limitless. However, the world didn't stand still since it was published, a handful of years ago. We have witnessed, seismic shifts in the global landscape. The onslaught of pandemic, the media, the incredible rise of artificial intelligence, the rapid technological advancements, and the increasing, digital nature of our lives. It's really led us into this uncharted territory. And so these changes have been presented, both as novel challenges, but also unique opportunities for our cognitive abilities. And so in light of this evolution, I felt responsible to revisit Limitless and expand on its core concepts to ensure its continuing relevance in today's rapidly changing world. The pandemic, for instance, had underscored a lot of critical importance in areas that you're talking about, mental resilience and adaptability. It has reaffirmed that our mind is our greatest asset in times of crisis, that nurturing our cognitive health is no longer an option, but it's a must. It's absolutely essential. When it comes to AI, artificial intelligence, it's rapidly reshaping the job market. It's changing the nature of the skills that are in demand. There's a growing need for creativity, problem solving, emotional intelligence, all these capabilities where humans could really shine especially in a world, of AI. And as such, understanding and harnessing the full potential of our minds has never been more crucial. So we added different elements in the book that really helps. I talk about mindset and motivation and methods. We added new chapters to really help people create the fourth M, which is momentum. Momentum is a force that serves as an invisible engine that drives us to keep moving forward, in spite of challenges and adversity. And so we have new chapters on neuronutrition, which explores the role of nootropics in optimizing cognitive health and performance. We also, and this is something that's obviously growing in the area of biohacking and mental longevity and resilience in a post-pandemic world. We explore the concept of brain types, which is an assessment that I created, a strength kind of finder-based assessment based on our own learning styles and brain dominance theory, introvert, extrovert. So we created a 4-minute quiz that's absolutely free that you get a personalized report. And depending on your brain type, I chose 4 animals. We could talk about it. It shows you how you could read based on your animal and how you could remember and study and perform and manage your time based on, your animal type. And we also include limitless at work, which is all about learning agility. How do we, then the lines between our professional and our personal lives have blurred a lot, in this digital age. How can you adapt and thrive in changing work environments or school environments? Maybe you're working hybrid in the office or remote at home, and how do you remain effective, productive, and most importantly, maintain your sense of purpose and harmony in your life. And then the last chapter was on AI, this extra chapter, because for AI, I don't see it so much as artificial intelligence. I see it more as augmented intelligence, and my primary question is how can you use AI to enhance your HI, human intelligence?
Mm.
And so, some people might feel like, technology is very intimidating or maybe overwhelming, but I show people simple things they could use, in AI to be able to enhance their learning, to enhance their focus, to upgrade their knowledge, skills, and abilities so they could be more productive and be better prepared for the world that exists today.
Beautiful. I'd love to expand on just a little bit of each one of those because I
Yeah.
know it's brand new content of yours. Our mutual friend Michael Bruce is also on the summit, and he shared his 4 animals. Maybe go and discuss that a little bit.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
a friend that had a son that was recently diagnosed with dyslexia, and was discovering that he just wasn't able to read or learn how to read in a particular way, but is starting to realize that just because his brain wasn't wired in one way doesn't allow him to have different capacities to be able to learn differently or be able to go through life still with extraordinary superpowers. Can you maybe break that down in terms of just how our different brains are wired, that we are all different, and not to necessarily be down on ourselves or other
Yeah.
people if they're not quote normal in how they learn?
Yeah, so I mentioned this assessment that we took. It's kind of the Strength Finder assessment based on our own learning styles. And so I believe that, after doing this for over 30 years, that it's not how smart you are, it's how are you smart. It's not how smart your kids are, but how are they smart? It's not how
Mm.
smart your spouse or your team is, it's really how are they smart? And sometimes people are trying to learn something with their non-dominant hand. So if I ask you to write your name with your non-dominant hand, it'd probably take longer. It would be, the quality wouldn't be as good. It'd feel a little uncomfortable. And sometimes when we're trying to learn or live or lead, sometimes it takes longer and it's uncomfortable, and the quality or the output is not quite as good because we're using our opposite hand. And when you realize that you have a preferred way of learning and leading and listening and creating, then life gets a whole lot easier. So we created this assessment. We put it at mybrainanimal.com, and it's free. And we give people a personalized report. But the essence of it is code. You have a brain code, CODE. And I tend to make everything an acronym just so it's easy to remember. The C is the cheetah. And if you're a cheetah, you're fast acting. You're an implementer. You like to apply information. You're very intuitive. You thrive in fast-paced environments. You make very quick decisions, right? And just some people can, imagine like they know somebody, or maybe they identify with that kind of archetype. The O are your owls, and the owls are very logical. And these are people who love facts, and they love figures, they love formulas, they love data, right? They make very logical choices when it comes to maybe a relationship, to how they spend their money, to how they make money, how they invest money, and so on. The D, so you have the cheetah is the C, the O is the owl, the D are your dolphins, and these are your creative visionaries. Dolphins are interesting people. They are very good pattern recognizers. They're very good problem solvers. They have great imaginations, obviously great creativity. And then finally, the E in code are your elephants. And your elephants are the ones that elephants love. Not only do they have a great memory, elephants also they travel, and they're very social animals. Empathy runs very strong with elephants as a strength. They're great collaborators, and they work really well in teams. So you can kind of sense, even me going through this, and you can think of famous people that represent this, and or you could go into like, Star Trek, and you're like, okay, Dad, maybe Spock was an owl, right? Very, very logical.
Right.
You could see somebody like Captain Kirk, and he's very quick to act, right? Very, 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 very intuitive, thrives in fast-paced kind of environments. You could look at one of the counselors and say, okay, that person has really strong empathy, and they can be an elephant and so on. But it's interesting when you ask your family to go through an assessment like this, or your team, even when our team went through the assessment, we have a few dozen people on our team. People found their home in different roles. Like, our customer experience team is mostly dominated by elephants. People who are very great interpersonal skills. There's some people on our team, in the area of marketing, they're very creative. We have our financial and our data people who are just dominated by owls. And it's interesting how we find our strengths, that way. But sometimes we beat ourselves up because we judge ourselves, and I think it takes the self-judgment out of it. And I really do believe happiness comes from having the curiosity to know yourself, and also having the courage to be that person. And to know yourself, that's why, you go to therapy, or you meditate, you maybe do plant medicine, or you do, or you go through assessments, and you get to know, what you stand for, your identity, the things that you believe in, your purpose, and so much more. And it also takes out judgment not only on yourself, but with other people. If you realize that they're struggling in a certain area, once you understand their brain animal, if you will, it's like, oh, this is just how they are, and it's not good or bad. Everything has certain strengths and certain weaknesses, but how can you surround yourself, with people that you're very compatible with, if you want to reach a certain goal.
I can see why that tool is just so important, not only for you to understand yourself a little bit better, but recognize that there is a plethora of different archetypes we all are, and to appreciate other for their unique gifts and what they bring to the table.
Yeah,
Let's
which do you think, are there ones that you feel like, and nobody's just one, right? We're a blend of these animals. I don't know if
I'll say
you're,
I'm a combination of a cheetah and an elephant.
I like it. I see that.
Yeah. Let's dive in a little bit on nutrition and cognitive supplements. Is there, maybe, a few tips on either nutrition and supplements that we should consider incorporating into our life?
Yeah, I mean, I always, I'm well known when you and I are on stage at wellness or longevity conferences, biohacking conferences. I always talk about the whole foods that are, really good for the brain. I always prefer food personally, it's my preference, but we don't always get, certain nutrients from all the foods, especially when we're traveling, and it's almost impossible with the state of the soil and everything. But, everyone knows, you know, many people could rehearse my 10 favorite brain foods of, avocados and blueberries and broccoli and olive oil and eggs. If your diet allows, the choline is very, good for cognitive health. Green leafy vegetables, if you're, some people, and again, with diet, I recommend you go to somebody, like Dr. Vuu, who could, run food sensitivity microbiome tests, because kale could be good for some people, but some people it's just, not the best, for them.
I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. If you are, I just wanted to let you know, join our community
There's so many free resources and a great community of people that desire health, happiness, human potential, to have more in their life, more health, more energy. And when you have those two things together, you could create more happiness, more abundance, whether it be financial, romantic, all these things in your life. And if you're just starting out, you don't know where to go, just sign up for thrivestatestarter.com, because in there you're going to get a bundle of information that includes a longevity ebook, a longevity and performance resource guide, lecture notes that come from my keynotes at Google, at Fortune 500 companies, all the insights in that keynote in lecture slide form given to you. And then finally, breathwork. I share 3 powerful breathwork exercises to access calm, which really gives you clarity and peace during the day, to access energy if you need to wake up and really motivate yourself, and finally a breathwork routine that you could do every single morning so that you could be very intentional with how you create that day. You could find all this stuff delivered free to your inbox at thrivestatestarter.com. And our community is growing. If you want to be a part of a community of people that desire the Thrive State, that are really in Thrive State themselves, and help other people along with that, you could be a part of the community. You can get group coaching from me. We do breathwork sessions, meditation sessions, and you also get to drop in and participate in podcasts in the future. You could find more about the community at mythrivestate.com. That's mythrivestate.com. So check out those resources. You're not going to be disappointed, and please enjoy the remainder of this podcast.
But, besides the foods, supplementation might be a good option for people. We know like there's certain, B vitamins are essential, for brain performance, the B6, B9, the folate, B12, they're vital for brain health. This is a whole area of science called neuronutrition, that your brain is only 2% of your body mass, but it requires 20% of the nutrients. I mentioned the choline found, abundant in eggs, but it's a nutrient food that, in eggs or soybeans that provide a vital role for brain health also as well. It's a crucial component, for, neurotransmitters to support memory and cognitive function, even basic things like your omega-3 fatty acids, right? Your DHAs, particularly, are crucial for brain health. The DHA is a primary structural component of the brain and plays a key role in memory, and overall brain function. So a lot of people supplement with that. I think it's important to get your D3 and your K2s. A lot of people aren't getting it necessarily from the sun because we aren't spending enough time, safely out in sunlight. But that's a very important supplementation. Magnesium is vital for brain health. It promotes learning, memory. It's also good for your mood. Certain magnesium, L-threonate, it's where it's just been shown effectively, to help people even sleep at night also as well. And some people could get it topically or take let's say a magnesium bath, Epsom salt bath at late at night, and helps you to relax and kind of phase into that kind of parasympathetic rest and digest. And then there's the more the nootropics, some of my favorite ones. And again, talk to your health practitioner. Not everything's for everybody. I like Bacopa. It's an herb in Ayurvedic medicine that has been shown to improve cognition and memory also as well. Big fan of rhodiola. It's a Scandinavian herb. It's been shown to reduce mental fatigue, also improve your cognitive function, also as well. Creatine, I know you like to work out, and it's not just for people who are athletes, but there's it's a substance naturally produced in our body. It's predominantly found in meat and in fish, plays a crucial role in energy metabolism. So that's might be something that people might want to supplement also with. I mentioned as the brain foods, turmeric, but so the curcumin is an active ingredient, in turmeric, has potential anti-inflammatory, antioxidant benefits also as well. So, the list goes on and on. I put all my favorites of what I'm personally using at brainnutrition.com. It's free, and you can just see what my stack is, when people are watching this. And then I go into like things like lion's mane, which is a unique nootropic. It has been shown to have very neuro protective effects. It stimulates the synthesis of nerve growth factor, in your brain. Some people supplement with the most popular one's probably caffeine.
Yeah.
I'm not a big coffee drinker personally. I mean, I do like a good, in my family grew up drinking tea, but caffeine, there's certain studies that's shown that this improves brain function, also as well. Some people handle it better than others. So, I always recommend people wait, a good 90 minutes or 2 hours from when you wake up. It's better to do your green juice or your electrolytes first thing in the morning, but that's my personal preference. The list goes on and on,
Yeah.
ginkgo biloba and so on. But I think this is a good place for people to do their own exploration, and see and try and what works best for you.
You did mention earlier this shifting landscape of remote and hybrid setups. What kind of strategies do you have that helps individuals kind of navigate these new shifts so that they can maintain their mental focus and productivity?
Yeah, so this is a whole new chapter that I talk about the science of learning agility. And it's not very well known, but our ability to be agile. Like when we think about agility when it comes to our physical prowess, and athletes, if an athlete is very agile, they're very like quick. They have a certain level of flexibility. Well, I want your thinking to be quicker, so you can succeed in your career and at school. I want you to be more agile, more flexible in your thinking also as well, so you can be more creative. And there's a number of ways of being able to enhance learning agility. Even when you look at your environment, just setting up your environment to be conducive for the activity that you want to really thrive in. Even whether it's our work environment, even silly things like, I'm going to state the obvious, but I find that common sense is not always common practice. Like not working in your bedroom if you could avoid it. Some people are late at night, are looking on their phones and doing last minute work or emails. And I feel like not only is the blue light affecting our sleep, coming from the screens, but also, when you're putting yourself in that kind of sympathetic, that beta brainwave state, when you should be recovering and kind of unwinding, to get linked to that activity, and then you wonder why you're lying in bed and you can't sleep because your mind is racing, but you just previous to that just flow through, and the world's information is on our digital devices, and you'd be context switching, going through, like you'd see 1,000 different posts, and you would never invite 1,000 different people into your bedroom, at night or first thing in the morning, but we do that with our devices. And I feel like that could increase our stress. And I know a lot of people are tuning in because they want to reduce that stress and really have a state of thriving. But chronic stress, I want to remind everybody, shrinks the human brain. And when you're in fight or flight, or you're in fear, you're in your survival brain, and it holds you hostage from your executive functioning. It holds you hostage from your creative thinking, and just like, the whole area of science around stress, but also fear, there's a whole area of science called psychoneuroimmunology, that chronic fear actually suppresses your immune system, makes you more susceptible to colds, to flus, to viruses. And so I think learning agility could first start, a simple way of starting is your environment. Like, even if you're like, if you have an iPad that you use for work, don't use it for Netflix, something simple like that. A big part of learning agility is state management, meaning that all learning in life is state dependent, and just regulating our state. And it's not really taught in school, right? State regulation, meaning in being able to choose your emotional states, because we don't have emotions, we do them. I see emotions as more of a verb than a noun, that you don't have anger, you do it. You don't have love, you do it. There's a process. Just like you don't have focus, there's a process for focusing, right? And when you take the nouns in your life and you turn them into verbs, it gives you your agency back, because it gives you a process that you don't even have energy. And you're like, Jim, that's the problem. I have no energy. But there's a process for generating energy. There's which includes sleep hygiene, eating nutrient-rich foods, managing your stress, which can deplete energy, and also even monitoring the people we spend time with, because there are a lot of energy vampires out there that are stealing our energy. I think some people are batteries included. like yourself, you have lots of batteries, lots of energy, and you give energy to people around you. But some people are batteries not included, and and they're like siphoning your energy, and you wonder why you feel exhausted after you spend time with the in-laws, or you know some of your friends. And but my reminder here is that we have more power and potential than we realize. And so when we take stock and we own it and we take responsibility for it, when we're responsible for something, we have great ability to make things better.
So good. You mentioned AI, and I know when technology comes in, a lot of times we tend to rely on it, and some people kind of lose out on their normal capabilities of doing things. How do we use AI and have it augment our intelligence and not rely on it and start losing our capacities with this new tool?
Well, in our journey towards becoming like limitless, right? Let's say you want to be a limitless learner and read faster, improve our memory, and remember names and faces, or client information, give speeches from memory, and not have to worry about a teleprompter or keynote presentation. There's one key ally that must not be overlooked, which is our own brains, right? Our brain is the ultimate supercomputers. It has immense potential just waiting to be unlocked. And so, in the book, we explore different ways that you could utilize AI, and so brain training is no, I'm not talking about brain training like an app where you have to match shapes and colors, because that doesn't really map over to your day to day. But but that's why we focus on things that are practical, like how to remember names or how to remember languages, how to read faster, because everything's very measurable. But when you combine, your accelerated learning, your curiosity, your creativity with AI, you could train your brains to function at peak performance, and you could augment your own capabilities with artificial intelligence. AI has the ability to handle vast amounts of data, more than the human brain can. It can perform complex tasks very quickly and accurately, and more as months go by. An example is using like AI to, let's say you want to learn a language. You could train your brain to absorb new vocabulary, new grammar rules. AI can provide real-time feedback. It could help you with pronunciation. It could be adaptive, giving you quizzes, because retrieval practice is very important for the brain. But the future really is augmented, right? The future of learning performance isn't just human or machine. It's a fusion of both. We use technology all the time. We're using technology right now to have this conversation, right? And it's not necessarily good or bad. It's just how it's applied. Like fire is technology in a way, and fire could cook your food, or fire could burn down your home. It's just really how it's utilized. And so it's this fusion of the two. And by coupling the stuff that we teach, brain training, with AI, we can create an augmented intelligence that harnesses the strength of both. So I don't think AI is here so much to replace us. I think it's here to, as we talked about, to augment us. It's a tool to extend our capabilities, not replace our skills. Our brain, when it's trained and used optimally, coupled with the power of AI, is the key to unlock, our exciting future. So there are lots of different ways. Like even if you want to use it to improve your reading, right? You could use AI to measure your reading speed. You could have AI give you very thoughtful questions to see how much you comprehend. The other day, we have a podcast that's pretty popular. Somebody's book didn't get to me in time, and I don't like to read on digital, just because I don't need more excuses to spend time on screen. And I like to read all of my guests' books before, but I didn't get it. But using AI, they could give me a complete summary of the book, just asking with the prompts. It could give me suggested questions to ask, of the author, when I'm interviewing them. I could do even right now, people could go to their favorite AI platform, maybe it's Chat GPT or something else, and say, hey, I didn't understand what Jim was talking about neuroplasticity. You could have it spit out like, hey, explain to AI. You could say, explain to me, artificial intelligence like I'm an 8-year-old. And it'll just, explain to you in very simple terms, or it'll make a story. Or if you want to use it to improve your memory, you could say, you can even put in AI, how would Jim Kwik memorize the periodic table? And it'll put out 8 different ways, that I've taught people on how to be able to do that, or learn another language. It'll say, if you wanted to build a mind map, it'll do that. If you wanted to create a memory palace, it'll do that for you. And so, I think it's wonderful to be able to use technology, but I just remind everybody, you're using technology. You don't want technology to use you,
Yeah.
right? When people just pick up their phones, for example, just out of boredom, then I feel like technology is a tool for us to use. But if technology is using us, then who becomes the tool? Then we become the tool, in the
Yeah.
equation. But yeah, in that chapter, we put so many practical ways you could prompt AI to learn anything faster, and augment your own intelligence.
That's amazing. In your concept of limitless, it really implies breaking through mental barriers.
Yeah.
And so, what would you say, or what advice would you give somebody who struggles with self doubt or limiting beliefs about their own cognitive abilities? And more importantly, what are some key actionable first steps for someone to start doing so?
I went for a run this morning. I'm just getting my steps in, which is so important for your longevity and for your brain health and your mental health, certainly. And I was just taking a moment to just notice the environment. And there's this bird chirping up in the tree. And sometimes I play this game in my mind. I do these thought experiments, and I was like, well, if I was that bird, what would I see?
Mm,
And how would I feel? And I was saying, well, that bird is pretty joyful and it's pretty confident, but I wouldn't be that confident if I was all the way up there in that tall tree. Because, I had a couple of bad falls when I was a kid, and so that's why I'm always like skydiving or, doing zero G, exercises or stuff like that, just to kind of get over my own stuff. But I realized that the bird, it's calm and it's confident, not because it trusts that tree branch. It's calm and it's confident because it trusts its own wings.
mm,
And in a world of full of self-doubt, self-doubt comes from different places, right? A lot of it was imprinted on us when we were children. When I was 9 years old, I didn't think I was broken until, an adult said I was. And all of a sudden that became my inner belief and my inner thoughts. Every time didn't do well in school, I would say, oh, because I have a broken brain. Right. And your brain is this incredible supercomputer, and your self-talk is the program it will run. So if you tell yourself, I'm not good enough, or you tell yourself, I'm not good at remembering names, you will not remember the name of the next person you meet because you program your supercomputer not to.
mm.
At events that you and I have been at, and, we walk the halls and, we get approached by attendees and ask questions. People invariably say, I'm so glad you're here. Let me tell you, I'm just my memory is shot. I'm too old, I'm not smart enough. And I always say, stop. If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them.
Yeah.
If you fight for your limits, they're yours. So I would say when it comes to self-doubt, it's a combination of mindset, motivation, and methods. Meaning there's set mindset, there are a set of assumptions and attitudes you have about yourself. Maybe sometimes we have self-doubt because we have the mindset of everybody's doing better than we are. We live in a comparison culture where people are flipping through and scrolling through and seeing the reel, the trailer of best in people's lives. And you're like, wow, that the grass is greener on that side. And we feel bad about ourselves. But the truth is the grass is greener where we water it. Right. And sometimes it's greener on Instagram because of the filter your friends are using. Sometimes it's greener on Instagram because there's a lot of artificial turf, stuff that's not real on Instagram. But I want to remind people, if we're fueling, if our drive comes from it being fueled by other people's expectations and other people's opinions, like maybe people taught you that you're not enough, and that was the, implied communication. I want to remind you, if that's what fuels you, you're going to run out of gas. Then nobody has a right to state who you are, or lessen your dream. And so my thing is, I do trainings with a lot of actors, helping them perform on camera, be focused, memorize lines, speed read scripts, whatever. And I
Mhm.
remember I was working with Jim Carrey at his home, preparing for a project, and we took a brain break, if you will, and we're making our brain foods in his kitchen. And I was like, I have to ask, like, why do you do what you do? I'm always curious what motivates people. And he's like, Jim, I act like a complete fool on camera, totally extreme, because I want people who are watching, I want to give them permission to be themselves. He's like, my religion, if you will, is to free people from the concern of others.
Mm.
And because he thinks that's the thing that limits us the most. And I would just remind you, for anyone suffering from self-doubt or fear, that, change can be scary, but so is regret, right? When we're taking our final breaths, it's not a fun conversation to have. It's not very positive. But doing this thought experiment, if you're taking your final breaths, fast forward decades in your life, the truth is none of other people's opinions, none of your personal fears or doubts are going to matter. What's going to matter is, how we lived, how we laughed, how we learned, how we loved. And I always think that the most important thing is to keep the most important things the most important things. And comparison is just not one of those things. Complaining is not one of those things. Comparison, complaining, excuses, self-doubt, it just wastes an immense amount of energy and time, and it achieves nothing, right? And so, my recommendation for everybody, and we all struggle with self-doubt. Sometimes it motivates us to be better. My advice to somebody is to remind them, that it's a choice, like that we don't always have to be a thermometer reacting to the environment. We could choose to be a thermostat, and a thermostat doesn't react to the environment. It gauges the environment. It knows the temperature. But a thermostat sets a standard. It sets a temperature. It sets a goal, a vision, and an ideal for themselves. And then the environment changes after that. And so I just want to remind people, when it comes to self-doubt, is to have perspective. That's it. And when we're doubting ourselves, thinking like maybe we're limiting ourselves because out of fear, my thing was like, play with it in your mind. If you're to fast forward 5 years from now and your life was exactly the same, are you happy? And most people probably wouldn't be, especially people who are listening and watching this right now, is because they want to have some kind of growth, and while change is hard and living your dreams is hard, nothing is as hard as being stuck somewhere where you don't belong. And I would just remind you is that you're given this gift, and I'll start with your brain. 87, 86, 87 billion neurons and brain cells, which you have these dendrites and these synaptic connections, thousands and thousands of them. When you look at the number of combinations and connections, there are more connections that your brain can make than there are stars in the universe. Right. And so, I always tell people your life is like an egg, that if an egg is broken by an outside force, life ends. But if an egg is broken by an inside force, then life begins, right? And great things begin on the inside. And if you're listening to this conversation right now, I don't think it's coincidence. I feel like you're drawn to it because like attracts like. We need more of these conversations going on, because nobody is self-made. We all have to do it, together with somebody else.
Thank you so much for that bit of wisdom. Jim, I wanted to thank you for taking the tough journey yourself and now being able to create your life to be this gift and resource for the people all over the world. So I thank you for your time, your frequency, your wisdom, and for being with us on the Thrive State Summit.
Thank you so much. Can I challenge everyone to do something?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would challenge everyone to take a screenshot in wherever they're consuming this right now, and post it, tag Dr. Vuu, tag myself, wherever you're posting it, so we get to see it, and be notified about it. And just post one thing that you're going to do, like one of the things I ask every day is like, is this good for my brain or is this bad for my brain? One thing you could do to reduce your stress, to make a difference in somebody's life, that way your fans, your followers, your family, your friends who are following you, they get the benefit of it. Because I think you learn so you could earn, so you could return. And if people want more information, if it's okay to mention, just check out my book, Limitless. The expanded version is out. It's at limitlessbook.com, and we donate all the proceeds to charity. We've built schools everywhere in the world, from Ghana to Guatemala to Kenya, and also Alzheimer's research for women. Women are twice as likely to experience Alzheimer's than men. And most of the research is still done on male brains and male patients and caregiving. But this is in memory of my grandmother, who I lost when I was going through my childhood issues. And so, it's so very important, or post what brain animal you are. If you went to mybrainanimal.com, post the picture of your brain animal and then share with us. I'll repost, some of my favorites because you'll tag us both in it. And I'll send a copy of the expanded edition to 3 people just as a thank you gift for tuning into this, this conversation.
Jim, thank you so much for your generosity, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoy that excerpt from the Thrive State Summit on this week's episode of the Thrive State Podcast. If you want to listen to the full interview along with the full interviews of the 50 thought leaders, experts, and celebrities in the mental health, emotional wellness world, please register for free at thrivestatesummit.com. Again, if you find this podcast useful, please subscribe, please share this episode with your friends and family members, and do us a favor by leaving us 5-star wherever podcasts are heard. It will help the show grow. And finally, if you haven't already, get the free resources. I have a bundle of longevity as well as peak performance resources to give you, which includes ebooks, lecture notes, breathwork exercises. You can get them all at thrivestatestarter.com. Thank you again. Thanks for being a part of our community and our mission to really elevate human potential. And remember always, you are your best medicine.